Clara Bennett came to the Whitmore mansion to teach piano to a silent little girl, not to uncover the song that ruined her father's life. The moment her fingers hovered above the grand piano, Alexander Whitmore began humming softly by the window. Clara froze. That melody was written in blue ink inside her father's old notebook, the same music the world claimed belonged to someone else. Then 8-year-old Lily looked up for the first time in weeks and whispered, "Mommy knew that song." By midnight, Clara would learn why a billionaire's family had buried her father's name. Some songs do not begin on a piano. They begin inside a wound no one admits is still open. Clara Bennett arrived at the Whitmore mansion in Boston with a worn music bag, a folder of lesson plans, and only enough money for one more week of her mother's medicine. The house was silent, polished, and cold, with marble floors that echoed under her careful steps. 8-year-old Lily Whitmore sat beside a black grand piano, clutching a silver metronome and refusing to look up. Alexander Whitmore stood by the window, the white billionaire everyone feared, staring out at the rain. Then he hummed one soft melody. Clara's hands froze above the keys. She knew that song from her father's notebook. The melody was only 4 notes, barely more than breath against glass, but Clara felt the room tilt. Her father had written those notes in blue ink across the first page of the Moonlight Room, the piece he played until the industry stopped returning his calls. Alexander turned from the window when he saw her hands suspended above the keys. "Is something wrong?" he asked. Clara forced herself to lower her fingers, but no sound came. "Where did you learn that song?" Alexander looked confused, almost wounded. "My mother hummed it when I was little. She said it helped lonely children sleep." Clara's music bag felt suddenly heavy at her side. Inside it, her father's notebook carried the same melody and his name. Clara had spent years carrying that notebook like a small private grave. Before hospital bills swallowed her future, she had been the girl professors at Boston Conservatory called gifted, the black pianist with hands fast enough to make old concert halls listen. Then her mother got sick, rent rose, and Clara traded recitals for church services, after-school lessons, and cash payments from families who wanted music, but not her story. Her father, Thomas Bennett, had once believed the Moonlight Room would change everything. Instead, after one foundation gala, doors closed, invitations stopped, and his name disappeared from every program. Clara looked at Lily clutching the silver metronome and understood the cruelest part. That stolen melody was the only sound the child trusted. Alexander watched his daughter for any sign of movement. Since her mother's funeral, Lily had answered doctors, tutors, and relatives with silence, as if words had become too expensive to spend. She sat small beside the grand piano, both hands wrapped around the silver metronome that had once belonged to her mother. Clara played a simple scale first, gentle and clean. Lily stared at the floor. Clara tried a children's song. Nothing. Then Alexander, almost without knowing it, hummed the 4-note melody again from the window. Lily's head lifted. Her fingers loosened around the metronome. Clara saw it at once. The child was not refusing music. She was waiting for the one song grief had not stolen from her. Clara placed her fingers back over the keys, but this time she did not play as a teacher testing a student. She played like someone touching a door that had been locked for years. The 4 notes became a phrase, soft as rain against the tall windows. Lily slowly set the silver metronome on the piano lid. Tick, tick, tick. Her small hand rose, hovered, then pressed one key in perfect time. Alexander stopped breathing. No tutor had reached her. No doctor had heard her make a sound near music since the funeral. Clara kept the melody gentle, leaving space for Lily to answer. The child pressed another key, then another. Alexander whispered, "How did you do that?" Clara looked at the notebook in her bag and knew the song had found 2 wounded families at once. Before Clara could answer, the music room doors opened and Victoria Hale stepped inside with a tablet against her chest and a smile that did not reach her eyes. "That is not on Lily's approved lesson plan," she said. Alexander turned, still shaken by his daughter's hand resting on the keys. "It worked," he said. Victoria looked at Clara as if success from the wrong person was still a problem. Grief therapy requires structure, not emotional improvisation. Clara lowered her hands, but Lily touched the metronome again, refusing to let the rhythm die. Then Victoria's gaze dropped to the worn notebook peeking from Clara's music bag. She saw the name Bennett written in blue ink, and all the warmth left her face. That night, after Lily finally slept with the silver metronome on her bedside table, Clara returned to the music room to pack her bag. The mansion was quiet, but the grand piano seemed to wait for her like an unanswered question. She opened her father's notebook and played the Moonlight Room from the first page to the last, letting every note carry the grief she had swallowed for years. Alexander stopped in the hallway outside the door. He did not interrupt. When the final chord faded, he stepped inside slowly. "I have heard that piece before," he said. Clara's heart tightened. At my foundation's first gala, it was performed under another composer's name. Clara's hands stayed on the keys, but the room felt suddenly colder. "Another composer?" she whispered. Alexander did not answer right away. He crossed to the cabinet beside the fireplace and unlocked a drawer Clara had not noticed. Inside were old Whitmore Arts Foundation programs, donor photographs, and a small archive key. "My mother kept records no one else was allowed to touch," he said. They went downstairs to a private storage room beneath the library, where boxed gala files sat under dust and careful labels. Alexander found the first foundation program and turned pale. The Moonlight Room was listed under a stranger's name. Clara reached into another folder and pulled out an unsent letter in his mother's handwriting. One sentence made them both stop breathing. Thomas Bennett wrote the music. Before Clara could read the rest, the archive door opened. Victoria Hale stood there in a silk blouse, holding her tablet like a shield. Her eyes moved from the old program to the letter in Clara's hand, and she understood everything too quickly. "You have no idea what you are touching," Victoria said. "If this becomes public, the foundation loses donors, scholarships freeze, and your mother's name gets dragged through scandal," she told Alexander. Then she turned to Clara with a softer, colder voice. "Your mother needs care, does she not?" Clara stiffened. Victoria placed a document on the storage table. "Sign tonight. Leave the Whitmore family alone." Her medical bills disappear by morning. The dust in the room felt suddenly heavier than the past. Clara looked at the document, and for one terrible second the offer felt like mercy. She saw her mother's pill bottles lined along the kitchen sink, the overdue notices folded under a magnet, the hospital voicemail she was too tired to return. One signature could make all of it vanish. Then she looked at her father's name in the letter, still alive in blue ink after years of silence. "My father said music only survives when the person who wrote it is allowed to be named," Clara said. She pushed the document back. Victoria's face hardened, but Alexander stepped beside Clara. In that quiet basement room, he saw clearly that Clara had less money than anyone there, and more courage than all of them. The annual Whitmore Arts Foundation Gala filled the concert hall with black gowns, polished donors, and soft gold light, but Alexander walked in carrying his mother's letter like a match in a dark room. Victoria had already changed the program, removing Clara's name from every printed page. "She is not performing," Victoria whispered. Before Alexander could answer, Lily stepped from behind his chair and placed the silver metronome on the grand piano. Tick, tick, tick. The sound traveled through the hall, small but fearless. Clara stood frozen near the curtain with her father's notebook against her chest. Alexander faced the audience. "Tonight begins with a correction," he said. "This piece was never lost. It was taken." Clara walked to the piano as if every step crossed the years her father had been erased. She opened the notebook, placed it beside the metronome, and let the first notes of the Moonlight Room rise into the gold-lit hall. At first, the audience only listened. Then Lily climbed onto the bench beside her, small hands folded in her lap, eyes shining. Halfway through the melody, she whispered, "That is Mommy's song." Alexander lowered his head, overcome by the truth that music had kept his daughter connected when words could not. Near the front row, an elderly composer stood slowly. "Thomas Bennett played that for us first," he said. "I was there." Victoria's face went pale as every camera turned toward the stage. Months later, the Whitmore Arts Foundation changed every archive, every program, and every recording credit to carry Thomas Bennett's name where it belonged. Victoria Hale was removed, and the donor who had benefited from the stolen piece lost his place of honor on the board. Clara no longer taught scattered lessons just to survive. She became director of a new healing piano program for children carrying grief too heavy for words. Lily sat at the grand piano each week with the silver metronome beside her, playing the first 4 notes without fear. Alexander stood near Clara, not as a billionaire hiring help, but as a man learning to love through honesty. When Lily smiled after the final chord, Clara knew her father's music had finally come home.